Writing equations in slope-intercept form. So today we're going to look at the formula y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. Remember, the y-intercept is where the line crosses the y-axis, and slope is rise or run. So let's take a look at the first example. So we need to know those two things to write the equation. Now, we can figure out the slope by picking any 2 points and doing rise over run from one to the other. For example, we could use point here and here. Now, to go to the right point, we need to go down one place. Now, going down is -1 square. And then going over to the right is +1 square. So m, which is the slope, is -1 over 1, or -1. Now for the y-intercept, we look for where it crosses the y-axis. And right here is our y, and you can see the dot right here where the line crosses y. We count up 1, 2, that's at square 2, so our y-intercept, or b, is 2. Now that we have that, we can write an equation. So y equals, we can put -1 for our slope, x always comes next, followed by the y-intercept. Now remember, it's not necessary to write the negative sign or the -1 in front of x. You could simply write y equals put a negative sign, x plus 2 would also be acceptable. Now let's take a moment and look at the second equation. So we can look at our slope by picking 2 points. So to go from the left point to the right point, we're going to go up 2 places, that's positive, and over 1. So our slope is 2 over 1, or 2. Now we look for our y-intercept by where it crosses the y. And you can see it does that here at 2. So b will also be 2. So now we can write our equation. Y equals the slope, which is 2, then an x, plus 2 is the y-intercept at the end. And that's how you write an equation given the graph. All right, let's look at the next thing. Now we're going to write an equation not given the graph. Instead, we're given a point on the graph and its slope. So we're going to refer back to our formula, y equals mx plus b. Now, we know what m is. It's the slope. So I'm going to put a 3 there underneath the m. Now, I need to know the y-intercept, but I don't have that. Instead, I have this extra point, x and y. So I'm going to use 5 for y and -2 for x. Knowing that, I can now solve for b, and then I'll have the other piece of information to write my equation. So let me multiply. 3 times -2 is -6. Now to get the -6 to go away, I will add 6 to both sides. And now I will discover that my b is equal to 11. Now I could use that to write my equation. So y equals, slope was 3. Don't forget to put the x after it. And then the y-intercept is plus 11. So if you'd like to try the next one on your own, you should pause now. So we're going to use the formula again, mx plus b. Remember, 4 is x, y is negative 7. My m will be negative 1. So I'm going to put negative 1 there. I'm going to put negative 7 under the y and 4 in for the x. And b is what I'm solving for, which is the y-intercept. Now I'll multiply together. Negative 1 times 4 is negative 4. To get the negative 4 to go to the other side, I will add 4. Negative 7 plus 4 is negative 3. And now I have my b. So I can use it to write the equation. Y equals slope. I can put a negative 1 or just put a negative sign, x, and then the b is negative 3. So my equation will be y equals negative x minus 3. Now I'm going to take one more thing away from you in the next slide. So in the last slide here, you no longer have a slope. You still don't have the y-intercept, but you're given 2 points. So you're going to have to do a little more work in this problem because you need to know slope and y-intercept. But there's a formula, if you remember from previous lesson, we can use to find the slope. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1 will help us find the slope. So remember, x1, y1, x2, y2. So let's set this up. Negative 8. We will then subtract 12 over x2 is 4 minus negative 1. Remember, when you have two minuses back to back, that will become a plus. So negative 8 minus 12 is negative 20. Over 4 plus 1 is 5. And if you divide those two numbers, you will get negative 4. So m is negative 4. Now I can use that slope in my formula, mx plus b. I'll put the negative 4 where the m goes. And remember, I'm still solving for b. But I only need 1 point. So I have 2 to choose from. So you just decide which numbers you'd like to work with. Do you want to work with negative 1 and 12 or 4 and 8? Most people choose the smaller number, and 8 and 4 is smaller than 12. So I'll go with that one. So I'll put negative 8 for y, and I'll put 4 for x. Now I'll work this out. Negative 4 times 4 is negative 16. And then I'll add 16 to both sides. So negative 8 plus 16 is positive 8. So now I've got my b and I've got my m. So I can write my equation. Y equals negative 4x plus 8. And we'll do this one more time. So I'm going to plug in my points for x1 and y1, x2, y2. So to find the slope, I'll do negative 8 minus negative 4 over negative 2 minus -3. Remember, when you have some double negatives, those will become pluses. So -8 plus 4 is -4, and -2 plus 3 is +1. So my slope is -4. Time to use mx plus b. -4 goes in for m. Remember, I'm solving for b. And decide which points you want to use. 3 and 4 are smaller than 2 and 8, but again, there's no preference. It does not matter which point you pick, you will get the same answer. So I have my -3 in there for x and -4 in for y. Now let's go ahead and solve this. So -4 times -3 is +12. I can then subtract 12 from both sides. -4 take away 12 is -16. So now I've got my b. And once you have b and m, you can write your equation. So y equals -4 x minus 16. And this is how you solve, how you write equations. In the first example, we had a graph. In the second equation, we had to find the y-intercept. And here we had to find the slope and the y-intercept.